Hi there. I'm your host, Britt, and I'm so grateful you've discovered the Loving Your Own Soul podcast. Together, we will embark on a mindful exploration to living a more fluid life through a deeper connection to the soul. My intention is to provide expansion and inspiration so that you can embody the highest expression of your true potential while creating more beauty in the ever-changing world around us. I hope you've arrived here with an open mind and an eager heart to receive all that resonates while leaving behind everything else. If you're feeling ready, let's get into it. All right, in case you are new here or maybe aren't as familiar with what's been going on for me in recent time, well, first of all, welcome. Thank you for being here and listening and sharing in the energy of this Loving Your Own Soul community. Second, I recently gave birth to my firstborn daughter in August of 2022 and have more recently brought the show back after a very intentional sacred pause to truly just honor not only my experience becoming a mother, but also for the entire duration of my pregnancy too. It's been a minute. I initially took a pause to recalibrate at the end of 2021, to which I then discovered I was pregnant. And here we are today in the spring of 2023. And I will have to say, it feels great to be back. And just once again, thank you so much for being here with me in this new chapter. I did a brief reintroduction of myself in the episode before this, episode 91. So if you are new here, I recommend going back and listening to that solo as well. Now, throughout this recent journey with growing and birthing a human into the world, I have been shown just how extremely powerful our bodies are, and more specifically, the female body. Today, I'm really pumped to chat all the things from food to cravings, body image, and nourishing our bodies with a loving compassion. I'll be coming at this solo today from mostly a pregnancy lens, but really this is relatable to anyone's wellness journey, pregnant or not. There is so much happening all at the same time with pregnancy. It really just feels as though you get a crash course to a handful of life and spiritual lessons all in a very short amount of time. It's honestly quite a radical experience. With my passion for health and my wellness and life coaching business, I've always loved studying the body and understanding just how resilient our bodies are when treated with proper care and attention. The body's ability to not only function, but also heal itself is truly remarkable, and it blows me away time and time again. I mean, our bodies are geniuses, constantly doing whatever it takes to keep us alive and thriving to the best of its ability. But what really blew me away in recent time was observing my body throughout the evolution of growing, supporting, and sustaining an additional human for 10 months or 42 weeks in my case. My body wasn't only responsible for keeping me going, but also the growing baby girl inside of me. It's actually interesting because I've heard and now been shown firsthand the way having a baby really has the ability to drop you into the greatest state of presence possible. But I also see with that how becoming pregnant is really an initial entryway into this newfound state of presence. It's really just a revolving door to the foundation of presence, which, if you're not familiar, is one of the key pillars to one's own spiritual journey. So it's just a portal in so many ways. Now, for me specifically, I'm referring to being present solely as it relates to my pregnancy. I will talk about presence with a child another time because there is so much to say on this topic too. Well, actually, a close friend of mine who is years experienced on this topic, she writes about it on her blog, which is awakening101.com. So I highly recommend going to take a peek there if the topic interests you, as it specifically relates to motherhood and the childhood experience. She has such a beautiful perspective on all of this. But here today on this show, I prefer to speak to presence through the lens of pregnancy, and then, of course, more so the human body's experience. Giving you a little bit of background context, before getting pregnant, actually years before I even officially wanted to start trying to get pregnant, I went down my own health journey to cultivating a newfound sense of love to my body and thus created a beautiful relationship between myself and my physical body, healing various areas of disease in the body. Again, I say dis-ease. I kind of just recalibrated myself from the inside out, healing everything from the state of my gut and digestion, chronic constipation, estrogen imbalance, cystic acne, migraines, parasites, brain fog, extreme bloat, all kinds of things were going on, which unfortunately, these symptoms are really ones that the majority of the American population walks around with on a daily basis and calls normal. Normal in air quotes, of course. Now, along this journey, a primary focus of mine was nutrition, among others, but nutrition was really the big one. And when we look at this through the lens of getting pregnant, you could say that I spent about 3 years ahead of my pregnancy unintentionally preparing my body for pregnancy. Now, this is sort of an extreme case, but also it's not that extreme when you think about the states of distress most of our physical bodies are under in this modern world. The majority of humans today find themselves nutritionally deficient, struggling with their mental health, dysregulated nervous systems, toxins or parasites are running rampant throughout the entire body. I mean, you name it. And of course, while it's heartbreaking to think about, it is turning around a bit as many people are starting to take a real handle on their health. They're becoming more conscious of the food being consumed, incorporating more mind body or stress relief techniques, a lot of things. A whole new movement is really taking place for the better. And we are slowly starting to see a change in the greater population. Our society is really waking up as to what it actually means to be healthy and not just thinking about counting calories, burning calories, or eating only bacon as forms of health, which they are far from that, especially when used in extreme cases. As a baseline, nutrition is huge. Proper nutrition, in my opinion, is a lifeline. And with nutrition also comes proper supplementation and ensuring that you are feeding your individual body with the specific nutrients your individual body needs. What we consume is vital, and becoming conscious of what we consume can be so life-giving. I'm going to specifically be referencing food today, but please know that consumption also comes in the form of toxins, news, media, relationships, certain dialogues, you name it. And I did just want to point out that throughout this solo today, I'm not here to tell you what I specifically did for my body along my health journey or my pregnancy, because what I did for mine may not work for yours, and I'd hate for you to disconnect from the wisdom of your own body while trying to follow the wisdom of my body, simply because we are all bio-individual, and what works for me may not work for you. Now, yes, of course, there are some overarching themes that benefit us as a whole, and I will give a preview into some things. But at the end of the day, I do hope that I can just inspire you to take a more inward turn to listening to your own body and cultivating a rich relationship with your body outside of focusing on the bodies or habits of others. My intention for today is that you will be able to use this conversation as inspiration to enhance your life and just thus leading to a greater ability to recognize your potential and embody your best self. To paint a better picture for you, because this is important, I really went into my initial pregnancy journey well equipped on the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health side of things. I was feeling like my most vibrant, strong, healthy self, and I could just feel the happiness felt inside my physical body radiating outwards as well. At the time, I was following more of a plant-focused way of eating with occasional bits of animal products as it felt intuitively correct. I discovered just how well my body was running off of mostly plants in whole food forms, consuming the least amount of processed foods possible. I had a supplement regime combined with adaptogens, functional mushrooms, algae, herbs, whole food combinations, so many things. I had discovered that eggs and dairy and gluten, sugar, animal products, and many oils left my body feeling highly inflamed, causing mass distress to my overall well being. I was very cautious as to the ingredients of foods, pesticides, gums, preservatives, additives, basically anything artificial or heavily processed, which, if you aren't familiar, processed food is really just eating chemicals formed into food that have been created to taste good. At this point in my life, I felt like I discovered my secret sauce to total health and well being from a nutritional and supplemental standpoint, and I was feeling great as a result. I also started taking my prenatal vitamin about 2 months before we first started trying to get pregnant. Now, it's recommended one starts taking a prenatal about 3 to 4 months ahead of pregnancy so that your body can begin building nutrient stores for the baby. And I would also suggest that your nutritional needs should really start following suit at least 6 months prior, because those first 12 weeks of pregnancy are when baby's development is the most critical. You'll need super high amounts of folic acid and iron to support the development of the fetus and the placenta. If you're not familiar, iron helps your body make blood to supply oxygen to the fetus, not to mention all the key organs, brain, limbs, etc. They're all forming. Literally the foundation of your baby is rapidly developing in those first 12 weeks. And the caveat to this is that for some, myself included, the first trimester is super rough, and you may struggle to properly feed yourself due to extreme nausea and food sensitivities that are taking place in those vital weeks. So, if you prep your body ahead of time, you can then rest assured that your baby's development is off to an abundant start because of all of your nutrient stores. And this is taking place while, if you're like me, you're struggling to keep down water or pretzels for 12 weeks straight. But again, this really just shows just how brilliant the way the body is. You get the point by now. I was in a really great place health-wise to start my pregnancy, and I had worked really, really hard to get there over the years. I wasn't doing the work for the focus of getting pregnant, of course, but when it became apparent to my partner, Dan, and I that we were ready to grow our family, I realized how pleased I was that I was at a great jumping off point, and that had really proved itself throughout my entire pregnancy following. Now, the very first time we got pregnant was in February of 2021, and we ended up losing that first baby that May due to a missed miscarriage. In our own healing journey of the experience, we finally felt ready to try again that fall of 2021, but we really weren't taking it too seriously as we knew it would happen all in divine timing. Just knowing that we had the ability to get pregnant was a gift in itself. And if you're interested in listening to this experience of ours, you can head back to episode 74 and 63 for some open-hearted conversations, simply just about what transpired for us with this loss. To that point, my heart goes out to anyone listening right now who has also experienced loss or the difficulty getting pregnant, infertility, an unexpected pregnancy. This journey is not linear, and it is certainly not simple. Needless to say, we were actually quite shocked when we discovered I was pregnant in November of 2021. It felt like such a surprise, yet totally right at the very same time. It was truly one of the most divine gifts to have received at the end of what ended up being a very trying year. And 2021 wasn't tough just because of our miscarriage. There's a lot that took place that year. It was wild. But upon first becoming pregnant with our girl Sage, I was super sick. It felt like I was living a never-ending hangover that I would never get out of. For anyone listening who used to drink heavily or maybe still does, you know what I'm referencing. When you've been trying to get through the day, head is killing you, you have extreme fog, the shaky body, nausea, a jumbled stomach, and you're basically just trying everything to survive the day, have a solid dinner, and go to bed so that you can ideally wake up and feel like your brighter self the following day. However, for me in pregnancy, the following day was just a repeat of the day before, And that lasted for that entire first trimester. I specifically actually can remember the end of the 13th week of pregnancy leading into week 14. And finally, it was like someone just like turned the lights back on in my world. For once, I felt like I could enjoy food. I could go for a walk without questioning if I'd make it back home. I could get into downward dog and not need to run and puke, hold an intentional conversation again, you name it. And suddenly, too, my energy was just coming in tenfold. It was like someone suddenly supercharged my battery, and I was just ready to dance and play again. One of the many benefits to this experience is that I really learned that I could move and get through anything, which I now see was definitely a bit of a prelude to motherhood. I figured out how to rally. I would lay on the couch until my next client call, get up and hold space, go lay it back down until the next one. I was just living in a total state of surrender and presence to my body and her changing needs, whether it was changing in the moment or in the day. I could also see just how strongly I was being guided by a force far much greater than me during this process. And it really just aided me in fully leaning into trust. Not to mention, my first spiritual wellness retreat was set to take place, and we were spending a month down in the Caribbean for a portion of it. We had Christmas and holiday travel. It was an interesting time to be living in what felt like a hangover from hell day after day. During this time, though, I was definitely primarily living off of gluten-free pretzels and Energy Bits spirulina tablets. And I will say that Energy Bits spirulina tablets, which spirulina is a form of algae, if you don't know, totally safe for pregnancy and breastfeeding. Obviously, always ask your doctor for sure. But these tablets are really what saved me and the health of my baby during that time. The body relies on heavy stores of iron for growing the fetus and placenta, like I mentioned before, and often our bodies can fall short of having enough iron to thrive during this time. And spirulina is crazy high in iron. I also loved New Chapter Inc.'s prenatal vitamin as it had ginger in it, and it was the only one I could actually stomach without feeling like I was going to puke it right back up. But the tiny spirulina tablets from Energy Bits, they're also super small, like a tab of Advil, so I could easily swallow them without having too much to taste. But they are filled with over 40 plus vitamins and minerals, have more protein than a piece of steak. They aid the body in creating long lasting energy. So, not the energy that comes from caffeine. This is a natural energy. And super cool, the World Health Organization is actually using them to cure world hunger. So I'm only sharing this for anyone out there who is curious because these guys were a lifesaver. I've also seen them save lives for important job interview days, weddings, speaking engagements. They've turned blood and cholesterol panels around for the better, aided in surviving extreme illnesses. I mean, these little algae bits are insanely powerful. They work across the board for, like I said, nausea, nerves, exhaustion, low iron or high cholesterol, immune deficiencies, gut imbalances. They're so powerful. I actually do have a code. This is not sponsored or really intentional. I love them. I'm a huge fan, if you can tell. So if you are interested, I definitely want to share them with you. So go check out energybits.com, opt for the blue bag of pure spirulina, and feel free to use my code LYOS to take 20% off courtesy of this podcast. I will link this in the show notes too, but once again, the code is LYOS for 20% off all of your purchases at energybits.com. I ended up taking Energy Bits throughout my entire pregnancy, and I do feel this is important to note. My blood levels and iron in particular were beautiful and right on track the entire time. And this is coming from a girl who grew up with iron deficiencies as a child. So I was already really conscious and cautious about this going into pregnancy. Plus, they aid your digestion and they do not make you constipated like an actual iron supplement can do. Now, in addition, I also did consume various whole food supplements. Mostly the main ones were vitamin D, vitamin C, calcium. I consumed red raspberry leaf tea daily from, I think it was about week 14 onward to help tone my uterus. And then starting at about week 34, 36, I consumed 6 dates each day. Fun fact, if you're not familiar, consuming dates your final weeks in pregnancy aids in the cervical ripening needed for a healthy labor and delivery. Now, for me, I did end up needing to get induced. More on that later if I feel called to share. But the dates were highly supportive once things got going. And of course, my induction journey, again, if you're not noticing a theme here, was really just another pathway to surrender. Um, so much surrendering that takes place to become a mother. I share all of this because on the same pregnancy journey, my body also suddenly began craving foods I hadn't eaten in a really long time. Foods that had at once done a disservice to my body and foods that I didn't necessarily find bad. I just discovered they didn't support me. And when I say crave, I actually mean crave from a primal instinct standpoint. Like, this is what my body needs type of level, to the point where a variation or a similar nutritional match just wouldn't do it justice. It was less than me just needing protein from any protein source. It had to be from a red meat or a salmon or something, like super, super specific. And I found this quite fun. It sent me down a really fun road to outsourcing, of course, the highest quality products for my cravings wherever possible. Now, this wasn't always possible, but I tried my best to find high quality sources of animal protein. And it really did benefit greatly because my digestion was never once impacted. So if you are looking to just add more protein in general, specifically animal protein back into your diet, it is crucial that you are sourcing from intentional quality sources and only choosing meats that come with the labels of grass-fed, wild-caught, and pasture-raised. Having been primarily consuming a plant-focused diet, I was so surprised when I'd wake up in the morning needing a burger in the worst way. Just salivating for a burger like a lion getting ready to go after its prey. Like, it was so intense. And yes, a steak sounded good, and I did eat a decent amount of steak for sure. But there was this very specific red meat just need that needed to be frequented. The burger need, it also transpired then into a daily egg sandwich. Again, this was a very specific egg sandwich that needed to be on sourdough bread, include cheddar cheese, spinach or arugula, the occasional avocado or tomato slice. I mean, yeah, these were just so specific, but I totally loved it. It felt so good to listen and feel my body with what she was specifically asking for, completely unapologetically. My relationship with my body became really profound and so loving during this experience. And I could feel just deeper shadow layers of my past body image issues and previous disordered eating habits, further just disintegrating with every week that passed. Again, this was one of the many initiations into motherhood. There were so many. I did notice that throughout the whole process, my body needed to have a complete complex of foods when I would eat, such as a protein, a healthy fat, veggies, hearty carbs. Naturally, my body still needed lots of fruit, which is natural for anyone. I really cannot say this enough. Like, don't confuse your fruit craving with sugar. Your body is actually just asking for fruit and hydration. Your body is not actually asking for sugar. Now, sure, you might be craving chocolate, but of course, it's the antioxidants and the additional beneficial nutritional profiles in a hearty, rich piece of dark chocolate or cacao that your body's asking for. And this can be commonly confused with the mind telling you that it's Reese's or Ben & Jerry ice cream, something of that nature. And this is where there's a strong difference in what the body is craving and when the mind or your emotions or past experiences might rush in to interfere, clouding your ability to communicate with what your body actually needs and is asking for. And to this point, there is also a strong difference in passing a donut shop and suddenly wanting a donut versus your body actually craving or specifically needing a donut. Your body is never going to tell you that she needs a donut the way she needs a whole food source. Your mind is the one causing you to believe you need the donut when really it's simply a want that became stimulated by an outside source versus an internal intrinsic request. For instance, I can give you an example. My first couple weeks of pregnancy, as my hormones were soaring through my body, I had a couple experiences where I suddenly desperately wanted, again, wanted, not needed. I wanted a Coca-Cola, to which I followed this want to then discover after a couple sips, this want was satisfied and I didn't even really want that at all. And in my truth, like I don't actually want Coca-Cola. That was just my mind. I can't fully remember what else. That one just came to mind and wasn't totally the best of examples, but neither here nor there. There were some funny things for sure. I mean, a couple times this one was more of a need, I guess, but I would it was definitely a need. I just needed pieces of bread because I felt so unstable. And I actually munched down on a dinner roll to kind of get some energy back for the day. I mean, all of pregnancy in general is it's quite an adventure, especially at the beginning from my experience. Now, a lot of mornings I would have my morning smoothie and an egg sandwich. I really needed to eat the most in the morning, it felt like, and then it would kind of taper down throughout the day. If I didn't have a complete lunch, I'd find myself dying for a burger or something come 3 p.m. And the funny thing was, again, my levels were never off. Nothing was ever out of whack. My body just needed that additional animal protein for the baby she was making, which it makes sense if you think about it. There was so much happening to keep me going, but then also my baby too. So of course we needed all that meat and solid, well-rounded meals. We were training for a marathon, but we were also running a marathon every single day. Salmon, I think I mentioned this before, was another solid craving, which pregnancy requires a lot of omega-3s, so that's not super surprising. I did eat a lot of avocados too. I went through a period where I was obsessed with pickles and olives, which to me, that's just a signal that my body was needing more sodium for a certain period of time. I needed way more food than I usually ate, and as I mentioned before, I loved it. And I loved fully listening to my body the entire time. I never deprived my body, but at the beginning where you are retaining a lot of water and you don't quite have a pregnant belly yet, you're slowly gaining weight. I could totally see how an unhealed woman with previous body image issues or disordered eating habits would really be in a lot of distress at this time. I mean, I for sure definitely lingered on some weird moments and had some outside dialogues come into my energy that I needed to clear once and for all. However, I will say just the more you can tune into the magic of what your body is doing and lean into supporting her during this incredible miracle of literally building a human in your womb space, the more I feel you are better able to work with her and just all the rapid changes taking place. Not to mention the hormones and roller coasters of emotions. It does not make it easy. And I actually feel that a lot of your past triggers or childhood experiences are brought to the surface again during pregnancy and or motherhood too, just for the purpose of truly moving through them to leave them in the past so that you can fully step into the next chapter of your life. A lot of people, you might hear it mentioned as moving from maiden to mother. And that is just a very clear depiction of what is taking place. Now, I'm also not one to monitor the scale normally, but I will share with you that I gained 45 pounds during my pregnancy, which is above what they consider to be normal. I think 25 to 35 pounds is considered the normal range. Again, what is normal? For me, it was what my body needed. And I gained this weight completely naturally, trusting and nourishing my body the entire time. Plus, through my postpartum journey, I've never once focused on losing the weight. I continued loving, supporting, nourishing, trusting, and healing my body post-childbirth. And naturally, all the weight fell off. I was actually shocked to watch my body heal so naturally. As I'm recording this episode here today, I am 8 months postpartum. I'm in the middle of actually weaning from breastfeeding entirely, and I am 2 pounds away from my pre-pregnancy weight. So I guess I shouldn't say all of the weight or 2 pounds shy, but pretty much the same thing. I haven't dieted once. I don't believe in diets, actually. I normally don't even really believe in talking about weight loss. I just wanted to share this here because I've simply loved my body in all her glory this entire time. And now I know we all have very different experiences post childbirth. However, I'd be lying if I was to say the way I've continued nourishing and finding grace with myself wasn't having a direct effect on my body's ability to heal and recalibrate from this experience. Anyway, I digress. Getting back to the food part of pregnancy, because I know we always want to hear about the food. So the red meat craving really tapered down through the second trimester and then ramped back up again right before giving birth in the final weeks. The pickles and olives I mentioned, those were mostly second trimester. The egg sandwich was pretty much throughout and still continued a bit through postpartum. The second trimester, going into the third trimester, and then throughout, I did eat a lot of black bean and white rice burritos. Forgot about that. Super bland and simple, but I was obsessed with them. Beans and rice felt so necessary sometimes. Fruit was definitely consistent, but that's nothing new. I was more interested in romaine or iceberg lettuce than anything else. I ended up eating a lot of Caesar salads. And this is a Caesar salad with a fermented veggie dressing, not a full Caesar dressing. That would be so intense. And ugh, the idea of putting that much Caesar salad dressing in my body makes me sick. I also noticed that I was able to digest dairy better than I had in years. This was fascinating. I had zero reactive symptoms. And later I did find out that there's so many possible reasons for that, actually. But for me personally, it was just really fun to eat more dairy products again without having any ramifications as a result. So overall, from my experience, it was really wonderful. And I never had any of those crazy pregnancy cravings, which to me, it just shows how balanced and strong my nutritional foundation was going into pregnancy. I was also tuned into nurturing my body and listening to her and her needs without judgment. And I just share all of this as a way to hopefully encourage and just inspire you as you are looking at whether it is a future pregnancy journey or just your own health life journey as a whole. I never had the peanut butter and pickles or whatever ridiculous combinations take place with pregnancy cravings, which, of course, no judgment or shade to these at all. However, from my lens, these bizarre cravings are actually pinpointing a possible nutritional imbalance or even a deficiency, and I feel that they should not be taken lightly. Now, I'm not an expert on pregnancy nutrition. This is just my perspective from my lens of holistic health and well-being. I feel the entirety of my experiences in this department really provided such an important lesson on staying present enough to listen to the cues we are being given. I wasn't eating much meat going into pregnancy. I got pregnant and suddenly needed meat. I would have killed for meat a couple times. Literally, it was a primal urge, a deep signal from my body. This was not mental at all. They are completely different. Cravings and our ways of eating often get so blurred as we try to understand what our bodies versus our minds are communicating to us. And looking back at this period of time, I just think of what a disservice I would have done to my body to have not followed through and given her what she was asking for. Now, at the beginning, because I'm human, of course, I was like, what the heck is happening? There's no way I really want that. It would just catch me so off guard. And I did try a couple times to give myself a plant protein, thinking it was just a need for more protein, but that didn't satisfy it. There were some very specific forms of nutrients in that specific thing my body wanted, whether that be red meat or a green olive. My body knew there was a specific combination of a nutritional profile found in a cheeseburger, say, with lettuce, pickles, tomatoes, that she needed to then be able to perform the miraculous task of growing a baby. And not just any baby, my baby in my body. Which, speaking of, kind of funny, I did have a huge aversion to red onions throughout my entire pregnancy. I forgot to mention that, but just the faintest smell of a red onion had me running to the toilet. Even to the point where someone could have a red onion on their salad, say 5 tables away at a restaurant, and I could still detect it. And to this day, I really still cannot do them. Anyway, it's just so relational to our sense of trust in ourselves and our body's sense of trust in us. I wanted this baby to be created in a beautiful, loving environment, and that environment had to start with my relationship to myself. Think about how confusing it would be if you are asking for a turkey sandwich and someone is like, "No, you actually want the egg salad." And you're like, "No, I don't." And they're like, "Yes, you do. Now eat this." So you eat it, feeling dissatisfied the entire time, but then you get full and then you're like, "Okay, whatever. I guess that works." Meanwhile, over time, you begin to lose all sense of connection and trust in your true, authentic needs. And this is what then creates a state of major internal stress. And the same happens with our bodies, whether that be during pregnancy or just in our normal everyday lives. This then creates stress in the body through supreme confusion. And when you are living in a state of stress, you can't properly function. And that's just stress that comes from miscommunicating with your body, not even mentioning the outside stress caused from emotional dysregulation, jobs, technology, relationships. It all goes hand in hand. And it's not that complicated, and nor does it have to be that complicated. We just have to slow down and listen. Have the intention to want to pay attention and be more present with ourselves. It's the same thing with our emotions. For instance, you are sad and someone says, "No, you are fine." And you're like, "No, I feel sad." And they are like, "No, you're fine." You immediately become stressed, confused, unheard, unseen, and more importantly, you begin to disconnect from your emotions and from yourself. Listening to yourself is really a huge act of self love. And this also stems down to parenting a child, too. The way you treat yourself matters, just like the way you treat your children matters. If my girl Sage is crying, I'm never going to tell her she's fine because in reality, she's clearly not fine. Something in her world isn't fine. And who am I to tell her she's fine when I'm not her? I would never, ever want to disconnect her from her emotions just because to me, the world around her is fine. But meanwhile, the world inside of her clearly isn't fine because she's crying. You get what I'm trying to do here? So instead, I will then hold her, let her cry, tell her I'm there for her. It's okay to be sad, whatever comes in the moment. And same way that I would then treat myself as well. I don't stuff my feelings away. I let them come now. I feel them. I've learned how to feel my feelings over time. And it's one of the greatest gifts we can give to ourselves and to others. You have to feel what you are feeling and be free to feel your feelings. I don't tell my body while she is building another human being and sustaining me at the same time that her request for a burger can be fulfilled with a lentil salad and she needs to quiet down. No, I listen and I trust that she knows what she needs. And I ensure that she feels safe enough to be able to ask for it. There are no rules in this. If there were any previous rules, literally throw those rules out the window because they do not pertain to the here and now. It is being in a true state of present. It's being so deeply present and willing and able that you can tune in and listen to your body. It really can be such a beautiful self-love and discovery journey if you allow it to be, if you choose it to be. And as I always feel with everything in life, if you want something and you get it, what is the point of walking through this life if you aren't enjoying what you have or where you are? What is the point? Life is way too short to choose anything other than joy. Joy is our birthright, and we are meant to be filled with joy. And it's simply our responsibility to choose joy in the big moments, in the small moments. Now, one last thing I briefly just want to make note of here as we are talking about food in the body is my nutritional postpartum experience. So I am going to have several postpartum specific conversations coming out, but for now, I'll share that I worked with a postpartum Ayurvedic doula for 6 weeks after Sage came into this world, and we followed an Ayurvedic style of mind, body, and spirit support. I actually probably will bring our doula, Sam, onto the podcast at some point because bringing her onto our team was hands down the most supportive thing I could have done for myself during this transition. Aside from daily belly wrapping and yoni steaming, massage, herbal drinks, from a nutritional standpoint, I consumed mostly warming foods for those first 6 weeks post-birth. In fact, they actually say, I think if I get this correct, that the 42 days of postpartum care provides 42 years of good health to follow. And from what I've witnessed in myself, I will say this is so true. During this time, my diet included a variety of oats in the form of oatmeal and bars. I had special teas, khicheris, curries, bone broths, nourishing soups, and not a lot of cold foods like salad and fruit and so forth. Everything was warm and just so nourishing in the best way possible. My animal protein intake was very minimal during this time and actually didn't start ramping back up again until maybe 2 months after childbirth. Of course, obviously minus the bone broth and ghees for sure. I was ravenously hungry though due to breastfeeding, and I ate so much food to support my milk supply too. Aside from continuing with my prenatal and daily probiotic and spirulina tablets, I didn't take any other supplements at this point, and I really just focused on foods that were easy to digest and supportive to my body's healing process. Oh, I could go on and on for this topic of nourishment and nutrition. And I actually thought this conversation was going to be much shorter. So thank you for listening if you've made it all the way through. I truly am just so grateful to have you here as part of this community, and I'd love to hear your reflections or any takeaways from this episode. So please do not be shy and come say hi to me over on Instagram at the Britt Olson, as I would love to connect with you. And to wrap all this up, I just want to wholeheartedly say that through this pregnancy journey, I really discovered a heightened state to our natural rhythms and cycles of our bodies, which it feels metaphorical to how we move through the day or actually move through various seasons. It feels so reflective and really parallel to the energies that we feel with winter, spring, summer, and fall, because we are all just cyclical beings. And for me, I feel like I'm really moving with the season right now, and that I've really moved from winter into spring. And I'm, just so excited to see what transpires next. Plus, because there is so much taking place in such a short time with pregnancy, you do become hyper aware of all the things happening within you. It feels like you are supremely tuned into this massive change happening on a physical level, in addition to the mental, emotional, and spiritual levels too. It's really such a true lesson to the art of surrender. There were so many times I just had to surrender to the flow of what was happening, knowing I could not control anything. It was a beautiful experience, challenging, of course, but mostly so beautiful. The human experience is often a highly controlled one, and releasing control, especially as a female surrounding food in our bodies, is so challenging. But I feel that it really, really shaped my relationship with my body, myself, and my own experience in this lifetime. I'm just so grateful for it. And I'm so grateful for all the magic I was able to witness with it too. I'm forever grateful for this experience, and equally just so grateful to you as well for being here with me, sharing in this discovery journey. I hope you enjoyed this loving your own soul conversation and are now feeling an internal sense of inspiration and expansion. I encourage you to go take action on one simple thing that will not only better yourself, but also the world around you today. I'd love for you to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at the Britt Olson, and I cannot wait to see you embody the highest expression of your own true potential. Now, one last thing before you go. Please don't forget to check out the show notes for special discounts on some of my favorite and well-trusted products that will serve you well in all areas of your life. And if you want to continue learning and connecting together, be sure to check out my website, thebrittolson.com. Plus, if you feel called, I'd love for you to rate and review the show, whether on Apple Podcasts or by sending me a DM on Instagram to let me know your thoughts. Once again, you can reach me at @thebrittolson on Instagram, and exchange for your feedback or review, I'd love to send you my free ebook to making simple, modern smoothies that your mind and body will love. Plus, I will also include a special energy healing meditation. All you have to do is simply leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and screenshot it to send to me, and or directly message me your feedback at @thebrittolson on Insta. Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you for you, and I hope you have a beautiful day.